And welcome to a Grunts Perspective, a non-scripted, free-flow podcast addressing a range of topics from a Grunts perspective. A Grunts perspective is not limited to those who have served, but a perspective of those who are knee-deep in grunt-like work. The blue-collar, the worker bee, the ones in the trenches of everyday existence, trying to make sense of it all. No topic is taboo, and all perspectives are taken into consideration. I'm your resident grunt at Armistead. On the other end there, I got my battle buddy, Gravy, and today, a special guest that personifies the continued commitment of family value, athleticism, and the war spirit. My brother, ChiChi. Welcome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So today's segment, it's about the warrior spirit, unlocking that self-discipline through fitness. When I think of a warrior spirit and the journey throughout a person's life, from what I know of you, I think of you, man. I think of you as like, you know, a really person that steps out into a crowd of people. Not just like here at the field or anything like that. We've mixed it up a few times out there in different mill sims and everything. He once gave a motivational speech that would make Chester Puller like blush, I think. I mean, old Chesty, give it up to Chesty. Yeah, we've done a night up at 108 Mile a couple of years back. That was pretty intense. Yeah. That was epic, yeah. Motivated us. But for people that know, who are you?
Well, ChiChi Larue, which isn't my real call sign or name, but that's what I go by. It was kind of something I made up on Facebook so that nobody would know me except the guys that were playing at the op.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm flattered for that introduction. I don't feel it myself, but yeah, I'm a bus driver for the last 23 years. I've been playing airsoft for probably the last, 14 years, I think. Paintball for almost 20 before that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I wish that I had been formally introduced to you before the op because I could have used you.
I'm just the guy that they usually bring in when shit hits the fan.
Well, you deal this shit pretty good. But yeah, so for me, I think when we talk about warrior spirit and then the warrior, I think there's two things that commonly get misconstrued is the difference between a fighter and a warrior.
Yeah.
Right? A fighter fights to live, and a warrior lives to fight.
Yeah.
Meaning that a fighter, he'll fight because he's good at it, but he'll do it to put food on his table.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? A warrior, it's in his spirit, it's in his core being to fight to preserve the lives of those around him and in his community, right? Mm-hmm. And he usually stands, in my opinion, for a greater purpose greater than himself, right? And so for me, growing up, to be blunt, I came from a pretty abusive childhood.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a father figure or role model, so I looked to Hollywood, right, for mentorship and for role models. Well, the problem with that is that you can have that Hollywood mindset, but the reality is if you don't have the muscle or the skill to back up that romanticized version of being a warrior, you're going to get your ass kicked, right?
100%. So who was your go-to in the industry?
In the industry at the time, being a kid of the 80s, Chuck Norris, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chuck Norris with Bruce Lee, a close second because my forte was karate, right?
Yeah. That's interesting because like Chuck Norris, karate, Shotokan, everything that he's done is great. For me growing up, I was more centered on Asian styles before, you know, I grew up out of that fantasy and I went more towards Japan. But for me, it was Kung Fu. So you're invoking Chuck Norris. I'm going to invoke David Carradine here for a second.
Yes.
Okay. Lone Wolf McQuaid, Chuck Norris versus David Carradine. So karate versus Kung Fu. Who really won that fight? Do you remember it?
I was so young, I think I was like 11 or 12. All I remember is I probably watched it at least half a dozen times on VHS because it was such a cool movie.
Yeah, yeah.
but I'd have to go back and revisit it. But they are two classics. I remember Lone Wolf McQuade. Yeah.
Yeah. So I won't spoil it for anyone, but to me it's a draw because of what happens. But man, Chuck Norris during that time frame, that's pretty badass. I could definitely see that from the 80s, that Delta Force and everything else he's done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
speaking of Delta Force, what about Mega Force?
Omega Force.
Please tell me you remember Mega Force.
I probably do. Who was in it?
I can't remember his name.
I'm so bad at movies.
Anybody out there, go look up the trailer for
Omega Force?
Mega Force, yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I remember watching those 80s Kung Fu marathons, man.
Yeah.
You book a Saturday off with your friends and you watch Kung Fu movies.
Yeah, totally.
And you get together and you're up there in your rough house and you're destroying the house and your parents are yelling at you to shut up and keep it down. And,
Yeah.
And that was sort of what I grew up with.
How many siblings?
I have one blood brother and two stepbrothers.
To add to the violence.
To add to the violence. The one stepbrother, the oldest, he was back east. I never knew him. My other stepbrother, which was the same age as my brother, he was a wrestler, a high school wrestler. And because I didn't have the brawn at the time, right? I was fast, but I never had the brawn. So whenever my brother John would catch me, he'd always tool me, right? He'd wrestle me, and I'd be like, well, if I was on top, I'd kick your ass.
Yeah.
No. And then he'd say, then I'd mouth him off again. I'd be like, well, let's try that again. He'd try it, he'd whip my ass, and I'm like, oh, God. So from then I realized that there was something better than karate out there, because what is this stuff on the ground?
Yeah.
But I still had that mindset of, well, you'll never get me to the ground, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm standing up, I know karate.
So a house of all men beating on each other. This, for people that don't have that or don't understand, I grew up in a house of, I got an older and a younger, and to the point that the older would pin me down while the younger worked his magic. So I totally get that. How much do you think that adds to the warrior spirit? Like you said, just always needing to, oh, if I was on top, if I could do that. And you're always pushing yourself by the one that got your ass kicked.
Well, I think for me it was mostly, because my brother, when he would get me, like he would lay the beats. I mean, he would lay the beats to be bad. And then of course, when the stepdad came home or my mother came home, I'd get beating so bad that like I wouldn't take PE for 2 weeks because my shorts, if I wore shorts and PE, you would see all the bruising.
Right.
Yeah.
And my hands would be all bruised and swollen, trying to block the hits, right? And so for me, it became a test of endurance. Well, how much pain can I take? And I remember one time, we had my mother and my stepdad had broken so many wooden spoons and plastic utensils on our ass that my stepdad was a mover. So what he did was he took an old pallet, broke off one of the boards off of the pallet, cut it down to about 24 inches, and then 8 of those inches he carved a handle into it, wrapped it up with electrical tape, and that thing never broke, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one time, I don't know, I think he just had a bad day at work or something and needed to take out his aggression. He's like, get to your room, you're getting the stick. And I'm like, all right. I just go to my bedroom, drop my pants, like I'm about to get prison search.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how many? He's like, you're getting 10. And he was a muscular guy too, right? He was a mover. Man, he let it go. I didn't flinch. I was just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this the best you got? Real tough guy, right? You're beating up a fucking 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
We hit 10. He goes again. 11. 12. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, no back talking. Fucking 13. 14. Well, by this time, my legs, my muscles are starting to seize, right? So I buckle. Bam! Hits me again. I put my hands down because I'm trying to rub my legs. Like, fuck! Wax my knuckles, right? But now because I can't stand, he grabs me by my hair.
Yeah.
Lifts me up, and now he's beating me like that. So to me, that just became a psychological toughening of like, okay, well, my body hurts, but I can endure.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'd tell myself, well, you know what, at some point in time, I'm going to get old enough where I can leave. I can't do that now, but toughen yourself up and you'll be able to leave. And so when I got older, and then my stepbrother, I think we met when I was 12. So my mom had left my first stepdad, and then he came along. Getting wrestled and submitted with wrestling was better than being beaten with a
For sure.
stick, right? So, yeah, at that younger age, that was sort of my mental fortitude and that strength was just, I got to get through it.
Right.
And so that was sort of what drove me at that point in time. I think there was one point, so he was an alcoholic too.
Yeah.
And so he beat my mom all the time too. And I think my mom, because she was getting beat, well then what does she do? She beats the one that's weaker than her, right? So
Right.
she'd take that out on us. But I remember one Christmas, I don't know what was going through her mind, but she decides it would be a great idea to buy him a hunting rifle for Christmas. Oh my God, great, okay. So, the beatings continued, but then it got to the point where he had threatened to kill us all. And he was going to shoot us. And I remember, I was like, well, this is ridiculous. My brother was living on the streets half the time because he was running away. He didn't want to take it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I was too young to run away. My brother had a group of friends, and they were all pretty much runaways and sold drugs and did whatever else, right, to get by. I had nowhere to go. And so I was like, okay, well, my grandfather had taught me how to shoot when we were young kids, so I knew how to handle a firearm. And so I decided I was going to pick a day when my brother wasn't living at home at the time, so I knew he would be home. My mother was at work. She usually didn't get home till about 4:30. I would get home from school around 3. And my stepdad would be home around 3:30, so he would be home before anybody else got home. I was going to take the rifle, wait on the top of the stairs, and when he came through the front door, I was going to give him one to the chest. Right. So I set the day aside, and I made sure that my mom's schedule matched up with his and whatever else, and I looked everywhere. I knew where he kept his stash for alcohol. So I checked the camper, I checked his bedroom, I checked the drawers, the sock drawers, I checked his work area, his workbench area where he worked, I checked his truck. I couldn't find the bullets. So that was the only thing that stopped me that day from killing my stepdad, right? But it was simply because I knew that nobody else was going to do anything.
Right.
That I had to step up, and
You were willing to take that on.
I was willing to take that on, yeah. That was, I think I was like 10 or 11 at that time.
Shit, yeah.
But I knew that I didn't care what happened to me. But at least I knew that my mom wouldn't get beaten anymore. My brother didn't have to live in the streets anymore. They could live in the house.
Yeah.
And there was a time I had some medical issues when I was young. I was in the hospital for a long time. And I was like, well, I had a malignant bone cyst in this, which is almost like acted like a cancer, right?
Yeah.
And so went through a lot of surgeries, a lot of reconstruction surgery, a lot of radiation therapy. And I had dropped so much weight, and because the radiation had burned my throat and my jaw so bad, I couldn't eat. Because it felt like swallowing glass or razor blades, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can die here. But who would take the beatings for my brother?
Back at home. Right. Damn.
Because at least if I'm home, I can take some of the beatings and he can have a day off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. No, yeah.
And And so that got me through that period of my life too. So for me, it's always been about giving yourself for others, so that others could have a better life, right?
Totally.
And
The sacrificial protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Tim Kennedy says it best with his sheepdog response mentality, right? In his course. I'm like, bingo, man, you got it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's sort of where my childhood.
Yeah, we all come from like similar stories. It's interesting how us in a community, it takes forever for us to open up and share our experiences growing up. But in one way, shape, or form, we're all damaged in the same way.
Yeah.
And it's always the common denominator. But it's interesting how we don't express these things. We don't share these stories until like how many years have we known each other? But then you're like, there's a shared mindset. There's something at our core value that is forged in that abuse, continues on. We find that glimpse of the warrior spirit, and we continue on, and then we start forging these relationships. We don't know what the common denominator is. It's like, why are we friends? Like him and I, you know. And then it just clicked, and then we started getting to the root of things. Like, wow, this makes so much more sense. And it just there's tons of us out there. You know, and for the lone wolf that's out there, you just probably your pack is somewhere there. Just look for it. That's wow. So that was that's like
such a deep depressing.
no, that's what it's about. So that's like that was around 10 to 12 ish.
Yeah, so that was about 12. Then my mom had met another guy.
Yeah.
He didn't beat us, so that was good. But we were more of a liability. Again, I think with Gen X. Our parents were like, once you turn 18, get the fuck out.
Exactly. The clock is ticking.
Yeah, like, okay, you're old enough to support yourself, bye-bye.
Yeah.
So by the time you were like 16, 17, nearing that clock, you know, running out, seeing that hourglass, you know, the sand coming down, like that's what I went through as well when I was in that age frame. What happened then? Like, what was your mindset? Like
My mindset at that point was, I always wanted to be a Marine. Always in my high school locker, I always had the Marine recruitment ads hung up in my locker. I'm like, I want to be a fucking Marine.
It's that commercial, Fighting the Dragon.
Oh, man.
Fucking sold it, didn't they?
Yeah, they know how to pitch it though, right?
They do, yeah.
And so, when my parents, I'll never forget, because my parents, I sat down at the dinner table, and my stepdad says, so what day do you finish school? I said, I think June 18th is the last day. And then my mom goes, okay, well, we want your bags packed and you're out of the house on the 19th.
Damn, yeah.
I'm like, okay, why? Like, I still needed, like, extra courses, right? Extra credit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to school to be a teacher. Sorry,
It's bad words now.
and so, yeah, it didn't matter, man. Like, I had to start supporting myself and making ends meet. I couldn't think about furthering my education, right? Eventually, I think I was 23 or 24. My girlfriend and I went down to Bellingham or Spokane to the Marine recruiting office because it's like, well, I'll join the Marines. We can get U.S. citizenship. Her dad was a dual citizenship.
Yeah.
And we could start a life down there. So I went down to the recruiting center, and you guys required grade 12. I was a credit and a half short.
Oh,
We
shit.
only required grade 10
Yeah.
right here. So I was like, fuck me.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm working odd jobs. I'm working, it was so bad, man. Like, I had my coworkers one day gave me a $50 save on foods card because they knew I didn't have any food, right?
Yeah.
Sleeping on the floor with a blanket and a pillow. And, like, I couldn't date women, man, because they want to come upstairs, and I'm like, no,
Right.
it's just, you know.
Yeah.
So just then there was that shame and that guilt, too, right?
Yeah.
But I think for me, sort of the pivotal moment that opened my eyes to taking that warrior mindset to, well, you have to have a way to back that up. Right? You can't just stand up to somebody, because I used to do it all the time in high school, and I ended up getting shit kicked too. I would stand up for the guy getting picked on,
Yeah.
and then I'd get beaten up too and picked on, therefore after.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time my buddy and I, we finished work, and we went to the pub for some beers and playing some darts. And these guys started fucking causing shit, right? I'm like, you know what, man, let's just go home, call it a night, it's been a long fucking day. So we get out to the parking lot and go to close our doors, and two guys on my friend's side are trying to pull him out. One guy's trying to pull me out. I'm like, what the fuck? And Dave is now turned in his seat, and he's kicking the guy. Well, I managed to look over my shoulder and see like another 4 guys coming out of the pub too, right? And just that clarity of thought was, so the guy was trying to pull me out, I guess I was too big. He went around to run around to help their friends to pull my friend out. I clicked the car into reverse. I'm like, Dave, hit the gas. He's like, fucking man, we can take these guys out. I'm like, just hit the fucking gas. So he pulls one leg in, hits the gas, we go back, shut my door, he gets his other foot in, he shuts that door, and then we both off. He's like, what the fuck were you doing, man? We could have taken him. And I said, you didn't see the 4 guys running out of the bar, man, that were coming to assist. So now we were like, what, 7 versus 2?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to work out for us. So it was, I'll never forget, on our way to his place, he's like, fuck that, man. I'm buying us a weight set, and we're going back to karate. And so, yeah, that week we joined Kyokushin Karate, and he bought like this universal free weight set, and that started me on my martial arts sort of
Journey from there on.
Till this day, yeah.
Wow. When was that? When did that start? That was...
I was 20, what was that, 23?
Okay. Yeah.
23, and I'll be 51 next month.
Wow.
I also want to roll back a little bit because we went from 10 to 23 real quick. So I got to ask, when did you...
It says the same thing in the Bible, man. Don't read between the lines. There's a reason why that's omitted.
Don't question it, man.
When did you actually get to make your escape?
Yeah. Okay.
On June 19th,
Yeah.
when my parents kicked me out.
Wow.
Grade 12.
Yeah,
So you, what's that, 17?
17, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't talk to my folks for several years after that. When my grandparents died, they wanted me to try and make amends with her. So as their last dying wish, I did. I attempted for a year. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? It's just best we part ways. And never saw her again since, right? Then she died, and we went and collected her belongings at the hospital, and that was it. She never met her grandchildren, but
Wow.
it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you can pick your friends, you know, you can't pick your family, but
Unfortunately.
you know,
Yeah.
but I got friends that are closer than family,
Seems
right?
to be a recurring sentence.
Yeah. 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 So far, 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So then you started your journey. You started with karate. What style of karate? Because I know karate.
Well, I should say, I actually started in Victoria before we moved here. I did Wado Ryu. It was under.
Okay.
It was called CASC
Yeah.
in Victoria, Canadian Associated Schools of Karate.
Mm-hmm.
But the style was Wado Ryu. And they were like the hardcore, right? Like you would see them running in the streets of Victoria, they'd be doing knuckle push-ups on the cement. I'm like,
yeah.
I want to be those guys,
Totally.
right? So I guess I caught the eye of one of the instructors, and so I did some private lessons at his place, and he introduced me to the sword, the katana, and so we would
Yeah.
practice and cut up his mom's rose bushes in the backyard, and then I hear him
Guilty
getting
as
yelled at by
charged.
mom. Who's been jumping down my rose bushes? And you put the katana behind your back, right? No. It's him.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, and then when we moved over here, I tried a place in Stevenson. I think we Shotokan, and I went to that class, and it was pretty good. But then we sparred, And he put his most senior student up against me,
Yeah.
and the kid just went apeshit. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then when I tried to retaliate, well, then I was getting reprimanded for going too hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you
I've
did-
always noticed that about Shotokan, that it's brute force, but they almost always pair up one individual against not an equal size opponent, and it's like they just have like more of an ego thing.
To feel good, yeah.
Yeah, I've struggled with that. I've even done like in New York. Oh God, this is funny. So I live in such a multicultural city that I'm like, you know what? My dad is a racist. My stepmom was sheltered Italian, and my neighborhood started changing. So it went from like all the German and Italian families to like East Indian, West Indian. We had a bunch of Hong Kong and Taiwanese refugees started coming in. So everyone's like, oh, the neighborhood's going bad. I'm like, no, we're going to start getting really good food.
Not wrong.
It's all
Yeah.
perspective, yeah.
And then I started like looking at all the restaurants, and like you never really see them out anywhere, but they had like this one cultural center they just started putting together, and I would see them practicing martial arts. And at first I didn't know the difference, because watching, was it public access television at the time? They had like, all the Sonny Chiba like movies and stuff like that, which I was like, Sonny Chiba, this guy is badass. And then I started like looking at the mythos between, what's the difference between, Chinese and Japanese culture, and then the form of martial arts. And I learned that all the early Japanese art was because of after the occupation and after, the 1700s, like weapons were outlawed. They had to find new ways to combat. I'm like, that was so intriguing to me that they had to learn this art. They had to learn this combat system using ordinary tools. And I'm like, that is badass. But also at the same time, it's like, they're giving, the middle finger, if you will, to government and saying, we're still going to learn this art. We're still going to pass this along under the guise of normal things. Like, when police used to carry the PR-24, the nightstick, that is really, that's a rice husker. That's all it does. But
I have one of those.
Oh, you
But-
lost it.
yeah, it's for our rice.
Oh, it was lost in the flood, yeah.
Yeah, it fell off the fishing trip. Yeah, so then you can use that in different ways, and then I was like, this is amazing. Then I saw like this old gentleman out there, and he was just like really giving her, and I thought he was an instructor. He wasn't. He was a student, and like, I'm like, wow, this is a really old guy, and he's learning these things, and he's a white belt just like everyone else. And I'm like, I have to try that to come out. And I was like the first white student ever
Nice.
to come in there and be accepted. And then I started learning things, and then like I just like took to the culture, took to the experience of it, and I was just so surprised at what they have to offer. And they're just like everyone else, and it's just like, it goes back to just if someone is like unknowing of that culture, we demonize them first before we try to learn the gist of it. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. But yeah, I first started out with Shotokan, and then, I remember Ryo Shiyun, and then there was a few others. And to me, it was all about katas and all that. And I didn't understand. It looks great in performance. I didn't understand the application. But also around that same time, we're from the generation that grew up watching Daniel LaRusso and freaking Karate Kid and, Pat Morita and as Mr. Miyagi. And I kind of like, I guess, was a softer touch and introduction to it, but also ruined it for the culture. I'm like, it's not the way it is. Although,
I mean, there's the new one, right? So it's
Which isn't too
happening
bad.
again. I haven't seen it.
Surprisingly, I was, please.
but for us, it's nostalgia because we're old.
Yeah, that's why I didn't see it, because I didn't want to ruin it.
Okay. Fair enough. So you first started doing that, doing martial arts, and like, how did you find out, like, other than, your initial spark was like, need to learn defense and carry yourself and all that, but then what made you stick with it? Some people only do it for a short period of time, they lose interest.
I think, and just to go back, when I was 13, fell in love with that novel Shogun.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so I was like just completely enthralled with samurai. And there was something about just the whole Bushido, the 7 virtues of that, and just the honor and the tradition and the respect of, like, yeah, you can be a badass warrior and you can be slaying people all day long, but at the end of the day, you respect your enemy. Like, there was something noble and honorable about it, right? That just really clicked. So that was, and then to have that Ronin that Ronin melancholy of here's somebody who's been a warrior his whole life, has served a master, served his greater purpose. Now he's fucking out on his own.
No, exactly. That's how I felt with the transition of service. But it's interesting that you mentioned that because I always try to reflect back. I have a sense of deja vu right now on the Book of Five Rings, and which is really funny. What did I text you this morning? Like I totally texted you something that was off the cuff this morning. Open your phone.
You sexy bitch.
No, it was other than that. This is so funny. What did I text you this
Small
morning?
victories.
Yeah. Like I don't even know where this came from originally. This is pretty funny.
You trying to motivate me to get out of bed?
Yeah, totally, totally. I don't even know where it is. 1 second.
Your reason to get on the bus?
No. You're talking about waking up. I sent you a quote, and I don't even know if it was
the second thing right after you sexy bitch.
I don't even know where that is on my phone right now. Oh yeah, because I'm looking up from the wrong side. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, so it was a Miyamoto thing. So Miyamoto, he wrote. So he was a samurai. He won like something like 60 plus.
66 or 67.
Yeah. So you know the story. So anyway, he won 60 plus duels as a samurai with other men, and then after he did all these accomplishments, he was no longer had a feudal lord anymore. So he was just out his own. So he was like a samurai without a master, and became a ronin. But he felt he had no purpose.
Right.
He was this great warrior with no purpose. So he retreated into this cave, had this reflection on his entire life, and then he wrote the book of the Five Rings. And it's very interesting how that philosophy still stands true to today. And I find myself quoting him nonchalantly every once in a while, and I feel like I'm not doing enough justice. But the quote is, "Today is the victory over yourself. Yesterday, tomorrow is your victory over lesser men." So essentially, we always want to procrastinate. We always want to, do things only, in the heat of the moment. But if you're doing something now for the betterment of tomorrow, that's what it should really be about, whether it's mental fitness, physical fitness.
Getting your rest.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. It's totally important. So for you, like, what was like to go back, and even with all the experience that you've had, did you find that was like your lowest point and having to pull yourself out of it? Or is there another time in which you find yourself at the lowest, you couldn't rely on anyone, or was there something that brought you out of that darkness?
It's funny because I was thinking about life. But I remember listening to the podcast, and you were talking about your ex.
Yeah.
That was the same
thing.
Same low point.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like,
Yet again, birds of a feather.
right,
Yeah.
this cheating whore broke my heart. I couldn't save her. We're raised with that white knight. Well, fuck. Anyway, where was the red pill movement 30 years ago when I could have used it, right?
Right.
But yeah, for me that was it. And then I kind of.
What age was that at?
That was 22.
So it was at the same time you found.
Yeah. And it was at that point that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take all my time and focus all my effort on martial arts and weightlifting and bodybuilding, and that was it for me. And then I think it was probably like a year later, having my ex see me, completely different attitude, completely different outlook, starting to build confidence. Well, look who wants to get back together again.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, no, sorry, sweetheart.
Yeah.
So she pursued that for, I think she tried to get back together with me for like 6 years after that.
Wow.
And I'm like, it was funny because the final straw was we were out, I think it was like her birthday lunch or something, her and some of our old high school friends. And for whatever reason, the conversation came up, and I said, not to be a prick, but breaking up with you was the best thing I could have ever done. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, that's not very nice. I said, well, again, nothing personal. But I said I had no self-confidence, no self-esteem. I was codependent on you. And I had no future to look forward to. I had no goals set. But I said, now that I do, I said, you're completely not my type. You're not motivated. I said, you slept with so many people, I could just, the body count alone disgusts me. I could never touch. Man, fuck. Let's just say the rest of the lunch didn't go very well. And then her best friend tells me afterwards, oh, well, she was really upset because she was planning on asking you if you want to get back together again. I'm like,
there goes that illusion.
Fuck no. Why would I?
Right.
Right. And but yeah, that was my low point. And I think everybody sort of has to have that phoenix from the fire moment where they rise above the ashes, and it can only be done, I think, from the person themselves, right?
Right. Right.
You know, you can't be. There were times in that relationship, and now looking back, she was clearly bipolar, and now that we know what narcissism is, a harsh narcissist, and I'm like, see,
Aren't they all?
yeah, I wasn't fucking crazy, I wasn't insecure,
Yeah.
right? I was simply trying to, anyway.
Yeah.
But like, there were times in that relationship where I remember sitting down on the couch one day with a freaking bottle of vodka, just ready to get shit-faced hammered because I couldn't deal with the fucking gaslighting and the mind games, right? And then I remembered back to my stepdad and how he turned out. And so I took that bottle and I went to the sink and I dumped it out. I swore I would never let a vice control me or anything control my mental or emotional state. It would all be that clear mental discipline.
Wow.
And yeah, so that has been, but I think everybody, regardless if it's a warrior mindset or spirit, you have to have a solid foundation of a strong mind, a strong body, and a strong spirit. And then once you have that foundation in place, you can start building and layering on top of that, right? Because if you don't have those three things, in my mind, you don't have a foundation to base on. And if you do build anything on it, it will crumble because it's not a solid foundation. As the Bible would say, and I'm not a Bible believer anymore, but you know, you build your house on sand,
Yeah.
it'll collapse, right?
Exactly. So, moving forward, keeping that mindset, how do you keep that mindset with the current political climate and what's going on? How?
For politics? Because I was just going to say, what about those that have had that foundation fractured when they have had that confidence and they've built themselves as the right people, and that can still fracture at a point in life? God knows the circumstances. How do you suggest to someone to crawl out of that hole?
No, valid point. Not to get into religion or whatever else, but I look at it like this, and Ploy would understand because Ploy built some wicked gaming systems. And it comes back to the warrior spirit. I look at it as the spirit, which is the animus, controls the mind. The mind controls the body, and the body contains the soul. So the soul is like the hard drive of all its collected experiences over many incarnations. The spirit, that animus, that breath that animates the body when that first breath is given, that's like the operating system. I look at it as religion is an indoctrination into the mind. Well, the mind is the only thing that can corrupt or influence the spirit. So if theology, or any ideology, whether it be religious or political, can trap that spirit into a set, almost like a mind prison, that the mind then becomes afraid to think outside of that particular political or religious box,
Right.
you're fucking trapped. You can't do anything about it. And so I think the warrior mindset and the warrior spirit, I think you can break a fighter spirit. I don't think you can break a warrior spirit. because the fighter doesn't have that animus. That's not the operating system that was breathed into him at the point of his body becoming animated. So, somebody that has, I think you can reach low lows as a warrior, but I don't think you can break them. I think because of that spirit, that spirit has not let the mind corrupt it or influence it. It will find a way.
Somewhere there.
Yeah, to be like, fuck you, mind, you listen to me.
Yeah.
This is how we're doing this. Usually, it's the other warriors that are there to help him out. Because his whole existence is based off of the animus of not breaking. That's why, I think that's what separates the warriors from the fighters on the battlefield.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? It's the warriors who are going up and taking a fucking hill by themselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's the fighters who are laying down suppressor fire.
Yeah.
But it's that warrior spirit that's taking that one individual up to the top and taking that bunker.
Yeah.
You don't find it in everybody.
No.
But now that being said, if you're broken mentally or physically, that's where you need that solid spiritual foundation.
Yeah.
Because now you're looking for a higher purpose, right? You're looking to that other source, whether it be your higher source, the all, or your Abrahamic fucking all-father, whatever your poison is, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at something outside of yourself that is greater than you. For myself and my own spiritual beliefs, coming more from a Gnostic, occult, I practice magic. So that sort of gives me the insight as to what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah, yeah.
That I'm already fighting battles on the other side. And seeing things that are unfolding over there. Like, to have that spiritual strength, like I grew up, and I don't know if it's because of my abusive background, but I've always been incredibly clairvoyant, sensitive, all the clair abilities. But like I used to sleep with a fucking crucifix under my pillow because my bed would fucking shake every night. Well, probably five nights out of the week. And I'd tell my mom, oh, they're demons, just rebuke it in the name of Jesus. Well, sorry, sweetheart, but Jesus never showed up.
Right.
The bed's always shook. The pastor coming to fucking exercise the place didn't help. So again, with that warrior spirit, and I actually ended one of my relationships was because I had a Christian girlfriend and I was a born-again Christian, but I always had that occultic leaning, right?
Absolutely.
I'm like, no, something's not right here. The answers that you're giving me are not providing me with the experiences that I'm having.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck it. Pull out a book on Wicca. It was
Yeah.
right? There was nothing back there. Fucking Llewellyn New Age bullshit, but whatever.
Buckland, Gerald Gardner.
Buckland, yeah. Can't remember who else it was, but anyway, I did a Silver Raven Wolf one.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, you know what? If a fucking 16-year-old can understand this shit,
Yeah.
it's pretty basic. I'm not gonna fuck up.
Exactly.
But, right, if things go awry when I cast a circle, what's gonna happen? My bed's gonna shake even harder, and more things are gonna fall off the
Exactly.
shelf. Oh no! Like, what else is new? So that was my first jump into the occult. And what I realized over 20 years, I then got into ceremonial magic, Goetia, Solomonic magic, Enochian.
OTO?
I wasn't a big fan of the OTO.
No, not really. Because then you're getting too much into like Crowley and all that, and LeVay.
I wasn't a big Crowley LeVay fan.
No.
I love the works of Regarde. Oh God, his name.
This is crazy. I'm like totally vibing with this right now.
Okay, sorry. But I remember I was practicing, and you know, there's one ritual, I'll tell you later, but it made a lot of sense to me. It says, may terrifying strength uphold benevolence,
Yes.
and may benevolence temper terrifying strength. And there's that balance.
That's beautiful.
There's that beautiful balance, right? But, excuse me. But what I found is that when I started practicing magic, supernatural shit was happening all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And the spirits and the deities that I worked with, again, it was like they're always testing you, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like, okay, you want to dabble in this? Well, let's see what you know. Let's see how tough you are, right?
It's funny because, like, the more I read the Bible, the more this shit happened. Not that I dove into a cult, but the more I, like, tried to go the Christian route, the more shit I experienced. It was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try going the other way when you're
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So, so I wanted to, for myself personally, I wanted to find the devil that was in the Bible. I didn't want to hear from a pastor anymore. I was like, no. Okay, but where am I going to find fucking information on old Cornwall and Essex witchcraft, right?
Yeah.
Well, eventually, serendipity, things start falling into your lap.
Yeah.
And I had some experiences where I was being tested. My spiritual metal was being tested on the other side, where I was being attacked. And I simply, I stepped up to the plate, and this entity was like, okay, now you're ready to talk. I'm like, what the fuck do I want to talk to you about after what you did to me, right? And then he disappeared. But I realized then that, to bring it back to the point, is that our spiritual foundation is as important here as our physical is on that side.
Yeah.
Right? Because as you know, what happens in the spiritual is manipulated before it happens in the physical, right?
Yeah.
So if you can bypass shit on that side before it gets manifested here, it's much easier to make and deal with on that side than it is here. So to bring it back on point, it would be to find that higher spiritual purpose, right? And then start filling in those cracks of that foundation, so you can start building back up on it again.
See, I still feel like that's easier said than done when you already had all of that.
Oh, it's not easy, man.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Like, I lost friends, I lost family members. I remember sitting with my girlfriend and her family over Thanksgiving dinner, and I was calling them on things, right? Like, well, explain this to me. And they had no answer.
Yeah.
And they said, well, so what are you trying to tell me? You're smarter than us? And my girlfriend looks at me and she goes, careful. And I'm looking at all the eyes on me, and I said, yeah, I am. I said, I'm not better than you.
No.
But I said, I understand more than what you're being taught and manipulated to believe from a guy in a pulpit.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's happened so much with not just spiritually and people's spiritual journeys, but also modern academia. How the educational system has been corrupted and changed since the 60s was when it's really started. To take a deep dive on that another time would be a treat. To art link letters, illustrations, the changing of children's encyclopedia, indoctrination of children, even to today with everything that's going on in the world. It's a hard thing to swallow because right now my internal battle is that I no longer have a great war to serve in. But I'm still angsty as hell. I still want to pick up a torch and a pitchfork and fight the institution and tear down the institution. I've already been accused of starting my own cult, my own private military service, and everything like that.
What about this cult?
Exactly. But I feel that we need to constantly ask the right questions. We need to question everything that's around us. And
100%.
by doing that, you're also opening yourself to experience more that's out there. We're too closed in as a people. We're letting experiences and whatnot and the spiritual aspect falter and diminish into nothing. We're constantly being fed, artificial, flavors and chemicals in our food. I mean, our our pituitary gland, the hippocampus and everything, it's shrinking. Our connection with the environment is changing. We're going through great physiology changes that's also affecting us, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually. How many kids are allergic to like simple food items now? Compare that to back then, behavioral problems. And then I worry because like I have a son now. He's 6 and he's going through some things, but at the same time, he's good natured and he's great and all that. But at the same time, he drives me crazy. And he doesn't know where he's getting his outbursts. And I try to treat him like a little person. Like I set him down and I says, why are you feeling this way? What is it you're feeling? And then he's starting to articulate and explain that emotion. And it's funny because then one time he looked horrified because he didn't know why he was feeling that way. But he just flew off the handle. So I'm like, okay, demon child, what is the reason? and then he goes on these stories where like, there's someone living in my closet. And I'm like, all right, let's load up. Let's take care of this problem. But no, and then he started having these weird things. And now, I don't know if it's because the creative aspect of his mind is now developing and he's telling stories, but also he's told me some crazy things. He's like, yeah, I went by the bridge and then there was a fire, and then he started describing these things. So I started keeping a little journal of things he's told from. He was describing a battle to me that happened a few hundred years ago. And I'm like, I don't want to get into the specifics, but it was very eerily similar. And I looked at him like, okay, I don't want to address this. And I was dismissive. But like that's my own issue too, because like I've dabbled in and out of the occult, and it's hard not to, especially when you've had all these close to death experiences. Far too many to understand. And then there's one scene in cinema that always makes me laugh. It's Pulp Fiction, when Travolta and Samuel Jackson are in that room and they get shot a bunch of times and then nothing happens. Similar situation I was in. Can't explain why. Like, it was like from me to you, an AK going off, putting rounds down. Did not get touched. Okay? And then come to realize I did get shot once. It was in the plate, and that's the reason why I have that issue with my sternum. But that's all that happened. He offloaded an entire magazine, and only one hit me. And I can't understand that. I didn't want to understand. But then I always think back, okay, I'm alive. I'm here for a reason. I've had so much self-doubt after my 20s, 30s, going into my 40s, and I'm like, why am I still here? And I've come so close to that precipice, seeing that cave, like, well, I don't see what I have to offer anymore. I've touched other people's lives. I've saved people. I've freed people, what's left for me? I have no greater purpose, or at least so I thought. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it. But then something happens, like, oh, no. See something ridiculous, so I'm going to skip over it. And then I'm always wondering, what's the next best thing? So the next best thing for me is now that I have, a mini-me, so to speak, and now I have to be here for him. So that's engulfed me. That's what keeps me going. I found that spark, and I can continue going on. Some days are easier than others. Some are just like, I understand why lions eat their young.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we have to instill that in them. And he just started karate, actually.
Nice.
But he started at such a younger age, and he's all about the ritual, the bowing, and all that. And he understands and the respect, which I love. But there's a lot of things I don't want to expose him to or have him exposed to. But then he's starting to ask questions. He's like, why is this incense here? Why is this effigy here? Why is this here? Why do these people believe in this? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to have those talks with him. And it's been a recurring theme in my upbringing as well, because when my dad got remarried, I tell everyone I'm a recovering Roman Catholic.
Nice.
My stepmom, Roman Catholic, Catholicism, all that, performed for the Pope and all that stuff, Pope John Paul. My dad is a heathen, through and through. Like all the Norse upbringings, reading of the sagas, memorizing that stuff. Like he used to educate me in writing and runes and all that. So I grew up with that and understanding it. And then come to find out that he lived in California. He was exposed to like the LeVay people and all that, and he understood that. And then when my biological mother moved to Ohio, they don't live too far from Akron, so OTO is very prevalent there, and the cult studies. And then I took cultural anthropology in university, so I'm like well versed in all that. And then I started going to the cult, and then I started asking these questions, the church. And then they're like, "You continue on this path, we will have to excommunicate you." And I'm like, "Really? For asking questions?" But that's just the diocese and how they are as a people. They don't want certain things out. I mean, there's so much conspiracy around the Catholic Church that it's undeniable. You hear that? Look it up.
It's funny, as soon as I started questioning things in my private schools when I was okayed to leave.
Right? Why is that?
Because you know better.
Yeah. That's absolutely.
Where they grow the finest of pedophiles.
Yeah, and it's a grooming thing, and that's what we're facing right now. There's so much to attack the youth. Like I feel bad because there's times where like my kid asks me, "Can I go out and play?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me get ready. Let me go downstairs." He's like, "No, it's okay." And I'm like, "No, we don't live in that age anymore." And like, how do you tell the kid that it's not safe? It shatters their idea of the outside world. And he is like, you've seen him out in public, like how social he is. He gives everyone due respect. How do you do and all that? And you got to tell him that you need to rein that back more. And he's like, why? And I wish that we can instill that in more children and youth, but at the same time we have to protect them. I mean,
but I also argue that we are lack of that world now because no one allows it.
Yes, 100%.
If there's one kid playing in the backyard, the easy target. There's 30 of them all playing together, right? And everybody's let go, and everybody knows everybody's parents, and it's okay to knock on any door to say, "Come help."
Right, but at the same time, the only reason why there's a lot of kids playing in our backyard right now is that they're all like foreigners, and children are a different commodity. I hate to say it, from certain countries, but I'm starting to see a lot more intermixing and I guess community in their age groups, which really surprised me because like 4 to 5 years ago, I was not seeing that. Canada has gone through a crazy transition with immigration policy and understanding. It's
So we weren't going to get canceled till the 3rd or 4th.
I don't know. we may. This is a rare treat to have ChiChi on here because I know I sometimes like I see her posts. And I don't necessarily interact with them, but I'm like, man, that is thought-provoking. That is on point. That's another thing I've never really told you, but that I'm like, for example, there was something on here in your post that I read that I really wanted to get a quote on. You posted a quote on social media. It's from Plato. I don't know if you recall this. Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. Can you elaborate on that?
I think in basic layman's terms is there are few of us that are able to see through the propaganda that our government institutions are peddling on us.
Okay.
For myself, and it's funny you mention your child having experiences. My oldest daughter is very much like me. She loves tarot cards. She's having her bed move at night. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because around the same time I had it happen to me as well. And I'm like, fuck, I haven't had that happen in over 20 years. So I don't know what it is, but I told my daughter from an early age, make friends with the monsters under your bed, and you'll never be afraid of the dark again. And that was my stepping in to the unexplained and to the unknown, right? And so when I delved into that occult realm, and what people are now saying, going down that rabbit hole, you experience life on such a reality as something completely different that I never talk to people about it because they have no understanding, they have no concept of it.
Right.
And there's a reason these occult societies do not recommend people dabbling in it unless you're at least 30 and you have no mental health issues whatsoever. Because I swear there's been times where like I've been showing stuff and I've been on that precipice of madness. Like, fuck, what? And then it's pulled, when I'm showing it's pulled back and I'm like, holy Christ, like how do we continue like this, right? And the thing that got me with this And it kind of goes back to that warrior spirit, that more so that Ronin analogy. Is this lonely? Being a warrior, standing on your own against anything that you stand for. When the masses are sitting there and yelling at you, you know, fuck, you're a racist, you're fucking blah, blah, throwing every tirade at you, and you stand there alone, right? It's lonely, but you stand there and you take it because you're standing up for what is right. And there was a guy, I was studying, I think his name was Sabian. I was studying the fall of Jerusalem, the siege of Jerusalem.
Okay.
And so basically the Roman, I'll try and sum it up real quick, is the Romans had tried to basically build a structure so that they could overtake the first outer wall.
Yeah.
Well, what the Jews did was they tunneled underneath their structure, and it collapsed. And great victory, the fucking Romans were fucked.
Yeah.
What they didn't count on, though, is that their tunneling system weakened the structure of their own wall, and so at night, it had collapsed. So I think it was, so Vespasian was the emperor, so Titus wasn't ever in, so he was the general, and the wall collapses, and Titus gives this big speech, trying to rally the guys, like, who was willing to go and take this wall? But what had happened is the Jews had built another wall, another smaller wall behind it. And he gives this big speech about, like, how whoever does this, they will be in command of men as if we are equals, and the rewards that will be thrown upon you will be so vast that even I will be envious of you. And if you should die in the effort, your name shall basically live on in infamy for your greatness. But because of it, and because of his speech, everybody's like, well, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Who's going to be insane enough to do it? And this one Syrian cohort says, I'll do it. And Josephus records it as, if you were to see this guy, he was a black Syrian cohort whose skin was tight, and he was so skinny you would never, if you've seen him, outside of a soldier's uniform, you would never suspect that he would be a soldier. So here's this scrawny weakling saying, I'll do it. And then finally 11 others decide to go with him. So he goes, he takes the wall, they're throwing arrows, shooting arrows at him, tossing boulders down on him. 8 on the way up get wounded, they fall by the wayside. He gets to the top. Well, the Jews see him come up, he's standing on top, and the Jews are like, holy shit, well, now that we must be, the rest of them have got to be coming. So the Jews start fleeing. Well, poor I think his name is Sabian, he stumbles and falls off the wall and makes this loud crashing sound when he falls. Well, all the Jews turn around and look, and they realize, oh, he's by himself. So they go back, they start shooting more arrows at him, they charge him, he kills a bunch more. Finally, he gets shot so many times in his arm with arrows he can't hold the sword anymore. 3 others finally get to him, they get killed, and then finally he basically can't keep his shield up anymore, he dies. But there was that warrior spirit of that one person, who, to bring it back to this, was that he didn't fear death, and he was willing to stand up regardless of anybody else, right? He would fucking do it.
Yeah.
And he was willing to do it alone. And so I see that in this, that when we try and inform people of things that we know are coming, and they laugh at you, they criticize you, it's really fucking lonely. Like
Yeah,
now I don't
yeah.
even talk to most people because, you know, it's funny you mention the runes. My runes are my go-to divination
Yeah.
because I know they will never bullshit to me. It's cut and dry. My cards, I can kind of, depending on my mood, my interpretation can be biased,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
of course.
runes don't fuck around. The runes tell me what it is, cut and dry. And I've asked, well, what's to come? They're like,
It's
not,
undecided.
it's not for you to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, fuck. You know, maybe do I want to know? I don't know. But I do feel that because I have that same feeling. There's that in me, and there's days when I come home from work and I'm fucking tired. And my kid's like, where you going, Dad? I'm like, I'm going to jiu-jitsu. Why are you going to jiu-jitsu? Why don't you sit down and have a drink? I'm like, because if the shit hits the fan, if somebody comes in our house at night,
Yeah.
who's going to go down and confront them? That responsibility lies on me.
falls
And there's
on
my
you.
wife on the couch rolling her eyes like, oh. You know, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's that path that I've chosen to take. And then if the shit hits the fan, I'm also, in my eyes, I'm also responsible not only for my family, but those within my townhouse complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those kids, all
Yeah.
those young families, right? Whether they know it or not, no, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? But I'll be there. I'll be there to step up. And there was one time during COVID, this is probably about, and I don't mean to sound woo-woo-y, or I get too spiritual, but I remember I was lying in bed after work and just meditating and contemplating things. And I was talking to my deity. I said, well, what is it that I can do? What is it that I, as a single person, a fucking bus driver, supposed to do to make a difference? And the response I got was, it only takes one man to stand, and 1,000 will stand behind him.
Yeah.
But you need to stand up first. And I think those, yourself included, with that warrior spirit, going back to this, right? Even though we won't be understood or believed, when we stand and have the balls to step forward, to say, I'll take that wall, unbeknownst to us, there's 1,000 behind us.
Yeah. They're sharing the same ideology. Yeah.
But they don't have, right? They're the fighters. They're the ones that are willing to follow the warrior.
Right.
But the warrior needs to step out of his comfort zone. Like me doing this fucking terrifies me. Doing 2 IC at Crossfire terrified me. But I was asked to do it. So I need to step out of the comfort zone. And I think that's what this quote really hit me with. That was, even though people don't understand you, they may not believe you, but you do it anyway.
No, absolutely. And it's not about in the military, you know, we have a very strict rules of engagement. We have a very strict command structure, and we're forced to follow. But when shit hits the fan, very rarely do we actually follow the lieutenants, the captains, what have you. It's who is the most senior grunt at the time by their experience. Men, we as men, or we as a species even, because we can't discount, or discredit what women bring to the table as well in the warrior spirit. 'Cause I've seen, like, I've been alongside IDF before. Those women
are crazy.
they will throw down with anyone and everyone, and I commend that. But we as a warrior culture, we don't necessarily follow titles. We follow who is right, just, courageous. And that brings back to the theme of everything, and it's like the various traits of the warrior. But before we go into that, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to continue with the 8 traits of a warrior and how they translate into today's time. Thank you. And we're back. So we're discussing various traits of a warrior, and there's one thing I wanted to read upon. It's the 8 traits of a warrior. So there's awareness. We touched on the ability, to expand your awareness. What's hidden behind the veil. I mean, that in itself could be a topic, and understanding what's on behind that. Then there's the courage. There's one quote here, and it's from Bruce Lee. I mean, when you talk about martial arts, talk about warrior spirit. I mean, you gotta, good or bad. There's a lot of bad things in his life, but a lot of good as well. When it comes to Bruce Lee, he had this one quote: "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." You can face danger, fear, pain, and uncertainty, but you have to do it, and that's necessary on your path to mastery, I think. Another thing is relentless in your pursuits. I mean, you've personified that. I mean, you've gone through cancer. You've gone through that. You've gone through, like we all have, abuse and growing up, but finding a way out, keep pushing forward. Cunning, awareness of spiritual discipline grows, and being a warrior of light, recognize that slippery slope in nature and falling back on your ways. We all have various vices, whether they're harmful or not, but they are inherently still harmful no matter what. So they overcome that. Patience. The journey of oneself begins with a single step, yes, an acknowledgement, but it's a continuing on throughout your entire life, and try to personify that example. If you find yourself slipping, you can always, battle buddy mentality. Grab onto, your friend's community, find that voice, find that medium to express yourself. So that's essentially patience. The last two I've always struggled with. Patience is number one. Sweetness, and actually the third one, love. Because interterminal relationships, trying to find, it's hard to love someone else if you can't love yourself. And that level of sweetness, I always find myself quick to anger and reacting, but that's the grunt in me. And how to do that. Like, can you give an example of where that's really personified with you? Like,
in what, patience?
yeah.
Oh, fuck man, I have none.
Exactly. You're at the point where it's everything that's going on out there right now.
No.
How do we have patience to?
But okay, we all have none.
Yeah.
But we all have a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we don't show people truly how little patience we have.
Right.
So what is that little bit that you have?
Well, it's funny because, oh my God, probably back when I was around 25, 26, I took an anger management course. And they taught you to recognize your...
Yeah.
I say that sometimes my kids are like, what is woosah?
You're welcome.
And, fuck, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
What was it we just... Oh, yeah, right. Anger management. So they taught you to recognize your triggers, right?
Okay.
So if you can recognize your trigger, well, then you can cut off the anger from erupting. Well, what I'm finding now is fucking everything's a trigger. It's happening so fast I can't keep track of them, right? My ADHD brain is like, fuck, is this really the reality of which I am now dwelling in?
Right.
Unfortunately.
But I think, I hate to dwell on the martial arts, but that has been my go-to, particularly jiu-jitsu, because it has so many metaphors for life, and that you can carry over from the mats into your day-to-day life. For example, I did MMA when I got out of the Army. My buddy and I started MMA down in East Van at Posner's Pancration. So we did Muay Thai, Pancrase, and then we did MMA. So that was and so my instructor, Posner, was like a world kickboxing championship, North American championship. The guy's amazing. His son, Adam Posner, are coming up, watch out for him. He's, I've known the kid since he was walking. Fuck, the kid is a magic machine on the mats. Like, he's come up with techniques when he was 12. I'm like, did you show him this? He's like, no, he came up with that last night. Like, this kid is awesome. But anyway, I went from an M&A background, where he let me keep my blue belt from Kyokushin. And it was an eye-opening experience, right? Because Kyokushin was very, you can lay beads, but you don't touch your face, right? I think it's a Japanese thing. It's like, it's very honorable, keep it very pretty, but just like destroy the rest of you. And so when I went to jiu-jitsu, well, no, you got rules to play by. You're not a blue belt yet, so you can't do ankle locks.
Okay.
You can't do heel hooks, you can't do wrist locks. So I'm like, well, I can't punch either, so what am I supposed to do? So it confined me from this level of frustration. Oh, and then also having a key on.
Yeah.
Right? And pancrase, you do it either like nogi, where you're wearing like tight shirts, or chest to chest. A very grunt thing to do, very manly.
Yeah.
As the Spartans.
That's the Spartans, yeah.
Let us take off our shirts, boys. And so I remember the first 6 months I was doing afternoon classes, and I was always partnered with this guy. I call him Big Mike. And Big Mike, oh my God, he was a Scottish Highland competitor. So the guy, his thighs were like tree trunks. The guy was just a brick shithouse. He was a machine. And for the first 6 months, I could not break his guard and he would sweep me. Every class. And there was one time I was in my car after class, on the brink of tears, just out of frustration. Because it was that reality of, here I go from being, when I left MMA, I was a red belt, which in that school is like a brown belt, to 10 years later, I'm now a white belt in a different art, where I can't punch, I can't kick, I got all these rules to follow, and the frustration was and I felt so humbled, which is another good thing with martial arts. But it was at that point of that frustration where I learned I gotta be patient.
Yeah.
And I found, and in the army too, especially when you do those grueling rucks, I remember I would break down every foot, every step. I would pick a spot. All right, walk to that rock. Yeah. Like a foot and a half away, right? Yeah. And then the next rock. And then and even now today, I break down things into micro moments.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Little victories.
Little victories, yeah.
Yes.
Am I gonna go to Tim Hortons and get a double that's gonna take me out of ketosis, and I'm gonna have to fucking go on protein again and wait 3 more days, or intermittent fast to get me back into that? Or are you gonna say no and wait till you get home and make yourself a bullet coffee? Yeah. Again, it comes down to a micro moment, right? It's the little tiny, little victories that either make or break that insignificant moment, right? So for me, I usually struggle because I think a lot of times we mistake frustration for anger.
Yes.
And I think anger is simply the expression of frustration. It's not really anger.
Is it? Do we mistake it, or have we just been told so many damn times?
Yeah.
That's also a good point. Yeah.
Ever since we were kids to our first girlfriends and beyond, and wives, and we won't get none of us in trouble, so we won't say more than that.
And I think too, especially with patience with my kids. We're having a really rough time with our youngest right now. And, again, going back to that duality, right? Terrifying strength, and benevolence. Well, man, when that patience gets out of whack and that kid is pushing your buttons, Christ, it's like, benevolence, where are you? Because I could really use you now, right? And then of course, we're trying to instill in her, you need to stop reacting. stop acting on your emotions, stop for a moment, and think about it logically. And then you can, instead of reacting, you can respond. I'm going to be completely honest, easier said than done.
It is.
100%.
I'm struggling with that right now. But what I've learned is that when my son does something bad, instead of reacting, I try to dial it back, of course, because he has another meltdown, not because that he did something bad, but because I reacted in such a way and that I've disciplined him. And I am, I don't mean to like throw shade on his mom, but I am his world. And I've betrayed that trust. Like I remember one time I gave him a spanking for something, and he reminded me when I was a kid, because I had that first moment with my dad where I was 8. He smacked me around for something that probably he overreacted because I could remember the situation, but also it's just matter of perspective. I told him, "Hey, you get off my back," and he was honored the fact that I stood my ground against him. Of course, he beat the crap out of me after that, but he asked me, like, "Why did you put hands on me? Why did you hit me?" And I'm like, "You're right. Let's talk this out." And then I sat down with him on the floor, and he told me in his own way why he did that, why he was throwing things around. He was angry. He himself was reacting, but he went overboard because I reacted instead of being a part of in that moment and getting into the gist of the problem and squashing it. And it was really something simple. Like, it was all because he didn't know how to fix the situation. He didn't know how to clean up the mess. He did something bad, and he recognized that, and he didn't know how I would react. And then I'm like, wow, I need to reanalyze how I take part of this. So I guess that's a sweetness aspect of being a warrior and finding solution that doesn't require, as the old saying, don't kill a mosquito with a cannonball. And I've been trying to do that. And our relationship's gotten a lot better. And I've noticed that his attitude as well, outside of the family unit, struggling with that every day, especially with the job that I do in logistics and working with both union, non-union employees, and we're at a very uncertain time, economic wise. There's layoffs everywhere. The future is uncertain with many industries, and we're all under that stress. So I've been injecting more levity. I've just been trying to keep that grunt mindset. So in other words, I've just been messing around a lot more. But people appreciate that. It takes that strenuous, rule of the heavy thumb on people. And I've been trying to personify that in all my dealings. What about yourself with work? How's that been?
Good.
Yeah.
It was a long week. But good. I mean, there's things to come that I can't talk much about. So.
No, I know. But it is what it is.
Yeah. But I want to throw back to, you said you were struggling with sweetness.
Yeah.
But everything you talk about on sweetness sounds more like honor.
Fuck.
So once if you switch that, because I know you have no problem with honor.
No. Well, I still do. I'm a bastard.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, you can respect honor.
Yeah.
So if it comes to like spanking your boy, well, that's not honorable. We've all experienced that, and you don't feel very honored and understood.
Yeah.
Right. So switch it from the thought of sweetness, because that's not how we were raised either. We're not sweet people.
No.
But we can all be honorable.
No,
You'll feel the sting in the back of my hand, right?
Yeah.
Your back's off. What?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I often find myself telling my kids too, right? Like, the mere fact that I don't beat you, you're lucky. Like, the simple fact that I whacked you in the back of the head when you gave me lip, as opposed to smacking you across the face or putting your head through the drywall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
But they always think that, my life is terrible.
Yeah, I don't want to touch on kids today.
Yeah.
I think it's best.
Wasn't even that way. I'm not even going to say it. I don't like having me in trouble. At least I don't have to deal with the bullshit.
Yeah. You've got us there. I don't know. But with everything that you've experienced and everything, what's your continued driving force now? Like, what keeps you on that path now?
I think for myself personally, I'm always trying to be better, and I don't mean to sound like, oh, you're so wise. Like, fuck, No, I'm anything but wise, but for myself physically, I'm always trying to be a better fighter than I was that last class, right? Most days I go to bed and I feel like a complete fucking failure as a father. You know, like I discipline my kid, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I was too hard, right? I think warriors, we're hardest on ourselves and we criticize ourselves because it's that same criticism that drives us and pushes us forward, right?
Right.
And so for me, trying to find a mentor or a role model that I can aspire to be to, which is hard. I don't really have any. I kind of look to like Tim Kennedy, my old instructor, well, my current instructor, Simon Posner, because as they're aging, and I've seen them go through, and other fighters that I've trained with, seeing them get older, have families, and I'm always measuring myself to them, and so that's sort of what keeps me going. That realization that no matter where you're at in a martial art, you're never gonna stop learning. Like I remember when I was getting tested for my brown belt, and it was I think it was like a 2.5 hour test. Like it was freaking brutal. And me and this other guy up in the locker room, we had like this little discussion. We're like, okay, well, once we finished, because we had to spar everybody, all the belts below us, and then when they were all done, then we would fight ourselves, and then the other guy. So we were fighting a lot. So we thought we would be wise and be like, well, what we'll do is we'll take it really easy, right?
Surprise.
Oh, surprise! Yeah, we got about 2 rounds in, and our instructor's like, all right, stop. What's going on here? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, either kick it up a notch and start fighting, or you guys are done. We're like, oh, okay. So we kicked it up, and we crawled it out, and we earned our belt. But I had an epiphany shortly thereafter. I'm like, oh my God. In about another year, I could have my black belt. You know, because I was training at that time 3 days a week, but sometimes double classes, so sometimes 6 days a week, running 10K 3 days a week,
Wow.
and then hitting the gym weightlifting 3 days a week.
Damn.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost at my black belt. But then I realized, well, no, my black belt isn't like that pinnacle of perfection. When I got my black belt, I've simply laid the foundation to where I can now start building upon that. Because now I've got the tools and the skills, well, now I can start making it my own.
Right.
Right? So, that for me is always, right now it's just, because it is jiu-jitsu, is a fucking grind. I'm having more bad days than good days. Like, you know, you're getting tapped out by 25-year-olds that are 260 pounds, they're cops or firefighters. But, you know, I'm making it through. You know, I may not be tapping them, but they're not tapping me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm doing 2 classes, so I'm doing the regular hour class, and then we'll do, a lot of us will stay after, and we'll do fighting for another hour. You know, 5-minute rounds.
Yeah.
Fuck, that in and of itself, I know guys that are half my age that still can't do it. So for me, it's always, again, micro moments. I lose that match, or I get tapped to a 19-year-old white belt. Okay. All right, put the ego aside. What did you learn? I know I hate wrestlers. I fucking hate college wrestlers. Good shit, like, I can tell as soon as I roll with them, I'm like, you've done wrestling, haven't you? Yeah, high school. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
shut
that's
up.
all I know.
I hate them. But you learn to take every loss as a learning experience, right?
That's the important thing. That is a really good takeaway. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I think the biggest thing that you can take away from martial arts is how to handle loss, humility, and literally how to maintain control and cool under pressure. Being calm and collected in a chaotic environment is life-changing. Like, and I'm sure, I don't know about you, I haven't been under fire, but I'm, with the amount of training from a warrior perspective on the battlefield, do you find that when the shit hits the fan, there's a sense of calm and clarity of thought that prevails? So that you can you're able to perform the task at hand as opposed to the, oh fuck, I'm gonna...
Exactly. And it's interesting, it goes back to what you said earlier, that there's fighters and then there's warriors. The fighters will do the suppressing fire. Some of them will lose their head and they'll freeze that moment. There's been times where it's like absolute clarity, everything gets quiet, everything gets condensed down to short second intervals, and you know you have to take that threshold. You have to take that hill, take that cover, expose yourself, push yourself, go on. It's better I do it than the next guy, and so forth. But when you get a fire team, you get 7 guys, you know, yourself and then 6 guys behind you that have that same mindset. What you can do, what you can clear, what you can personify and then show everyone else, the next thing you know it, you have a whole platoon behind you. And they're doing the same thing just because you've inspired them. It's an amazing feeling, and I haven't really thought much on that. But then, like, I'm recounting situations right now. Something will go wrong, something will happen, but still willing to push and set that aside and that emotion and just keep your head in the game, not give up, driving forward, charge forward, do it. Yeah, it's a weird, calming stillness. Mm-hmm. And then there's some times where it's like almost like a Hemington novel. Like, he would always write about something where he would taste something and it would take him back to this moment in time. For me, I went through that. These guys here, they tried to get me to play 6 Days in Fallujah when it first came out. My air conditioner didn't work. It was a hot day. It was hot in my room. Sun was beating down. Yeah, he was coughing the entire time. And then the wind started kicking up outside, and then I could smell that dirt, that dryness, because we were also under heat dome at the time, and then it tugged me back. And then for a moment there, like you said earlier, about tricking the mind to what is real, you will manifest these things essentially. I was there in that moment. I was going through these houses again, and I was like, wow. Like, I had to actually stop, get up after a break and have a drink. Yeah. I had like 2 fingers worth of fucking whiskey. And I'm like, it took me back to the moment. And then I'm like, why am I upset about this? Is it because of PTSD? No. You know what it was?
You missed it.
I fucking missed it. And that's what I'm dealing with, because you have that internal struggle where you feel like, okay, what is my purpose now? And I'm trying to do that in different ways, whether it's this podcast here from, you know, a Grunts Perspective and analyzing things, but I don't necessarily want to glorify those moments and those accolades or the things I've done. You know, I'm more than willing to lift others up, because I think we're in a new transition. We're in a new state of mind moving forward, that our new mission now is to lead others, to form community, to kind of negate all the influence around us. But going back to that recognition and living in that moment, and those micro moments, I try to have them like almost as much as possible. But it's easy to push that aside, to think, I just want to get through this shift at work. I just want to get through the next hour and a half, because then I get to put the kid down to bed and I get to do what I want. And then when you have that moment, you're like, oh, I pushed aside that moment we could have had a bit more fun together, or I could have taught him something else and instill that. Now that I have this free moment, you're guilty of it. And like, what am I now supposed to do at that moment? What do I end up doing? Nothing. scroll through news articles for the day. And all it's going to do is make you mad to think of what's going on in this side of the world. So be present, live in the moment.
And you know what? And that's so hard too with kids, right? Because in that moment, they're pushing the fucking button, and you just want to be like,
yeah,
give me a vice, like give me a vent or a vice to get this out.
Yeah.
But then after I finish yelling at my kid, and she goes upstairs crying, and an hour later my adrenaline's come down. You feel like, fuck, really?
Yeah.
Is that the best you could have done? You didn't have, I think it was Jacko Willenick, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He had said something along the lines of, if you lose control of your emotions, it's a sign of weakness. Because you didn't have the strength to control that emotion. And I'm thinking, well, he's right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I hate to jump back into martial arts again, but any martial artist when you're fighting,
Yeah. The
if
second,
if you can fuck with their head in the ring or the mat and get them mad, 9 times out of 10 they're not thinking, they're gonna fuck up. And then you capitalize, right? And all that mental discipline on the mats, I come home and I can't get my shit together to deal with a 12-year-old girl. That she's pushing my buttons more than a 250-pound guy on the mats is. What's wrong with you, right? Like, it really puts it in perspective, like, maybe and I think that comes back to the love and that sweetness, right? Your benevolence and your terrifying strength are way out of whack, right? I'm letting that warrior mindset power through. With a 12-year-old girl? No, that's not how you deal with a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And you both just spoke and mentioned earlier, or we all said, we have no patience. But what I just heard from both of you is you have a ton of patience. You on the mat, you have to be patient, wait for your opportunity, and work and roll it.
That's a good observation, man. I never thought of that, yeah.
Right? And you in the battlefield, it's all patience as fast as it is.
Yeah.
It is patience and the calmness that you can bring over yourselves is patience. So don't just apply it to the battle, warriors.
No, you just hit the nail on the head, and it didn't even occur to me as I wrote down finding that calmness in the chaos. And you're right, I do apply it on the mat. But I don't apply it at home with my own loved ones, right? And I'm confronting that chaos with a warrior mindset of I'm going to conquer this. Well, do I want to conquer my 12-year-old girl who's looking to her dad to have patience and understanding of what she's going through?
No.
But you can conquer it twofold. Conquer yourself to have the patience to do it. Because the hardest thing, and the reason why we all were abused, is because it's easier to do it to the loved ones. And not that you're being abusive.
Who is this man?
I know.
He speaks such sage words. It's true.
But if you can conquer that, then patience to do it, because it's so much harder. And then with the kid, they push your buttons because you've told them 1,000,000 times, and it's like, come on, man, like I love you so much. I wish you loved me enough to know better and not do it. That's where that break happens, right? So screw the dude on the mat, hurt him,
Yeah.
bring it home.
Yeah. Damn.
And I
Look, I know that's deep, man. You just,
sorry.
You just hit me with a left hook and got me seeing stars for a second there going,
Didn't mean to throw you off your ball, but
No, that makes a lot of sense, man.
I just wanted to point out you both have a lot of patience. It's there.
We're just applying it the wrong way.
The
You
kid's
should
got
apply
a
it the right
point,
way.
you know?
No, that's good. That's good. So for those that are out there that are struggling to find their pack, they're feeling that their spirit is essentially crippled or don't necessarily have an avenue or a release. What do you recommend for them? What do you think they do? I mean, like your journey. I mean, like you are solid. You are fit as hell. Like I don't want to hit the mat with you. I don't. That's not my battle that I would choose with you. Maybe CQB, maybe long range engagement.
I don't want to be in a firefight with you.
I introduced him to, he was giving out candy through one of our Sims, and he was winning the hearts and minds. I introduced a hand grenade to his pile of candy.
Oh, yeah.
That's my style. But no, I mean, you're over 50 now. Like, for you, like, what is your daily regimen like nutrition wise?
You know,
I think that's the hardest thing, because right now, like, even myself, like, 2 herniated discs, damage, C-spine, orbital eye fracture, shrapnel in my shin bone and everything, and I've pretty much quit smoking, other than, you know, a cigarette here and there.
My bad.
It's all right. I do vape, but I do vape a lot less than when I was smoking, so that journey has helped. Trying to eat as clean as possible, but they're constantly lying to us
all the
on
time.
what's packaging, everything from the food pyramid and everything else. But like what is your diet? Like, I think the first thing that I think nurtures as a coffee.
What is it? Dumb for fit.
A double. Oh no.
It's not bad.
Yeah. But like I think the first thing should be nutrition, because food can actually change your mood. There was a time where I was like, you know what? Red meat's bad for you. You know, people are worried about colon cancers and this, that, and what's in our meat. And I have to say, living up here as opposed to the United States, food quality is a lot better, I think. Even, you know, alternatives, but there's still inherent risks, and the way you prepare your food, it's not so much the food itself, it's also what you put into it, and you think you're buying something nutritious and it's really not. But I noticed when I wasn't eating red meat, constantly angry. I went through that, and I was missing it. And then I tried reading on eating for your blood type and all that, and I tried various different diets, and then like right now with not smoking and eating what I'm doing right now, much better endurance, running. I feel better. Last time I had a blood test, like you can even see like the plasma in the blood is so much clearer. Like, I did not realize that when it comes to certain fats entering your body and foods, it's like coagulated, it's darker, that's not enough oxygen in there. I'm like, there's got to be something more to this.
For 2 hours.
I know. And then I'm just trying to figure out, like, for you, in your age group, I am on that precipice to get there. Not saying you're old. I know. I'm gonna have to join like an old folks like airsoft team or something like that.
In all your diets, did you try carnivore?
No, I never tried it strictly.
Yeah, it's the only diet I've tried personally, but yeah, I highly suggest it to everybody.
But you for yourself, like, what is your regimen?
Cocaine.
You didn't share?
No. You know, since, you know, like, when I was doing bodybuilding and training hard and fighting MMA, I was on top of nutrition and science and all that stuff. Actually, I got into it right when creatine was coming out.
Okay.
Right, so I went from, I think it was like I was a skinny kid in high school, which is why I got beaten up a lot too. I think I went from like 165, then I went on creatine, and I went up to 190 in like 2 months.
Wow.
And people are like, where are you getting your steroids? I'm like, come on, it's creatine. But then you come off of creatine and then you deflate like a balloon, right?
Yeah.
So when I left that, I mean, I took a hiatus when I got married, so from, say, 33 until 40, about 47, 48, I let myself go, right? Depressed, had no motivation, marriage problems, the stress of work. My wife and I, we worked only up until this year, or last year, we worked opposite shifts, never saw each other, right? Essentially single parenting for 14 years, a lot of stress. And then we were at the first Crossfire event, and my buddy Dave sends me a pic. I'm like, oh, who's this? And he's like, that's you. I'm like, That's me? Like, who is this fat fuck? Right? I was 260 pounds. And I was like, wow. It was that moment where I was like, I went right back to where I was when I broke up with my girlfriend, back when I was 22. I was like, fuck it, man. Never again. This is not me. I'm not gonna embrace the dad bod and the mindset of, oh well, fuck, you're dead now, you're getting old. Kiss your youth goodbye. Again, because I didn't have a role model, right? But now you look at Joe Rogan, the guy's in his 50s. The guy's a powerhouse.
Right.
Right? And Tim Kennedy, same thing. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna start going back and change the way I was before. So I had been out of the loop with nutritional science for almost 15 years. So I just went back to basics again. I knew putting my body in ketosis was better. There was that first few days, it sucks, because your body's getting rid of the sugar, right? And trying to convert your diet over to fats, which, again, the food industry has told us for the last 40 years are bad. Eat seed oils, margarine.
Yeah.
Well, now we're finding out, well, that's what's causing all the heart disease and shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, but it's heart-friendly margarine.
Yeah, what a crock. Now we're finding all this stuff out, right? So basically what my daily routine now, I get up in the morning, I either have a tall glass of water with either apple cider vinegar or half a lemon. I wait half an hour, and then I'll try to, we don't have our small blender is broken, so I can't make bullet coffee, but usually I'll have a bullet coffee. That gives me, because I will milk a coffee on my bus from, say I leave the house at 3 in the morning, I will milk that coffee till about 10 in the morning. I'll just sip away in it, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll usually nibble on nuts, or I'll have a protein shake. And then if I'm doing jiu-jitsu or going to the gym, again I'm coming off about a 4-month hiatus from injuries. I'll do a pre-workout, and then I'll do BCAAs after my workout, and then I'll try and have a protein shake before bed, so that my body has protein to repair. But that's pretty much it. I do notice that if I get my workouts done in the morning, I found the best results in the morning. I would get up an hour early, so I would start, I think I started work at 3:30, so I would leave the house at 2, get to the gym at work at 2:30. I would walk for 40 minutes, and surprisingly, walking burns the most fat. Like, you set it and you test your heart rate, and seriously, man, you're sitting there going, how can I be burning fat? I'm not even sweating. Yeah. And this is boring as fuck, right? Because you have that mindset of, I'm gonna crank this bitch up to 10 as fast as I can for half an hour. I'm gonna jog 10K in 45 minutes or less. No, man. Walking. Walk for 40 minutes? Let me rephrase that. That was what I would do. Walk for at least 20. I double it up. I do 40, 45. Then I'll go and I'll lift weights for 20 minutes. Nothing super huge, because I've got bad joint injuries from MMA. And I lost, I was at 260, and then I went down to 212 in about 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I felt freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Because and the difference is shown on the mats, right? I was able, my endurance was through the roof. I remember when I first started, I would look at these blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, fucking rolling for an hour. I'm like, how the hell are these guys rolling? And we were doing 3-minute rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is amazing. And then class would finish, and they would free roll for another hour. I'm like, how is this possible? After a year, I'm on the mats. I'm like, I do 2 hours of rolling, 5-minute rounds. And I'm like, anybody want to stay for a little bit longer? And then, usually the higher belts will want to try new techniques.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody's different. Everybody's physiology is different. That's what worked for me.
And I'm going to add something to that and question you both.
Yeah.
How much do you think of switching a diet and pattern is you feel great because of the success of you doing something? You succeeded at, okay, I actually switched to this diet. I actually plan to wake up at 2 in the morning and do that route. And how much of, all right, okay, walking, some people, again, right, running.
Yeah.
But just because you put your mind to, I am just going to walk that 10K, how much better did that feel? And maybe might trick your body into burning those fats. So for any point, just committing to something. I mean, I've been in my depressive hole and fell out of my routines horribly, and I'm trying to get back into it. And the biggest thing that I can say is do one push-up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't do those micro moments, right?
Again, the micro
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
So your diets and everything else, do you think there's a part of that it's just mind of I succeeded on setting this diet and can
Definitely
fully
break
committing
that
to it?
negative routine.
Yeah.
If you can break that, that's the single step on your, journey.
Yeah. And I think, too, does it really matter?
No, not
Right?
at all. And that's what I'm saying. Just
Yeah,
do
no, I-
something. Do the one push-up. Do the one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start a morning with a glass of water.
Yeah.
Right? Because as you were talking, I remembered, I guess I did do a diet accidentally before. And it was, I ate spaghetti all the time. That's it. I just meal prepped a bunch of spaghetti with a really meaty protein-filled sauce. And it was the best I ever felt. And I would go work a 12-hour construction shift and then get on the ice and go play goalie for 6-8 hours right after every single night. How could, and eating spaghetti, but just the feel good and the mental commitment of committing to the diets and moving forward on that. Don't commit to McDonald's diets and jump on that, but
Right.
No, I think it's probably a combination of everything, right?
Yeah.
So you're making the changes to your diet. So your body is going, hey, thanks a lot for giving me the nutrition I need. That physiologically is going to have an effect on you. Psychologically, you're accomplishing a task,
yeah.
right, that you set forward. For every micro moment that you overcome and make the right choice on, feels like an accomplishment. So psychologically, you're feeling like you're a winner,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to making bad choices and going, oh, fuck. Well, now I know I'm going to be shitting that Big Mac in half an hour because it's just going to run right through me. And I'm probably going to wake up in the morning, with freaking stomach cramps.
Yeah.
And then that spins you into a negative zone, right? That negative self-talk of oh, you shouldn't have done that, man. Now it's gonna take 3 more days to get into ketosis, and that's gonna throw another pound on your waist, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot of, I think the biggest success for me is breaking everything down to micro moments. It's just like a book, right? You look at a single page and it doesn't look like anything. You look at 2 pages, still doesn't look at anything. But then you look at 40 pages, then you're getting somewhere. Well, so if you can break it down into micro moments, or especially with weight loss, when I'm like, well, shit, I want to get down to 210. Right now, I think I'm sitting about 222 to 23. I want to be down to 215, 210. Instead of saying, my God, I gotta lose 60 pounds or 50 pounds, how am I ever gonna do that? It's okay, what can I realistically do? 10 pounds a month? 2.5 pounds a week? Easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a month. I want to lose 10 pounds a month. Let's break that down into weeks. Can I lose 2.5 pounds a week? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And 80% of your weight loss is diet.
Yeah.
It's not from working out.
Yeah.
So when you conquer that, then you step on the scale and you go, hey, I lost 15 pounds. Well, shit. Now next month I only have to lose 5.
But yet your drive goes up, not
That's
your.
right.
Yeah, it does.
exactly.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
And so it motivates you and it pushes you again to be better.
Yeah.
Right? And so it raises your confidence. It raises your motivation. You start seeing that, yeah, man, I'm achieving these small goals. Well, what next? Like, I mean, for me, for jiu-jitsu, man, I think I'm probably on the 5 or 6 year blue belt program because it is a fucking grind,
Yeah.
right? They usually say 10 years to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, I'm probably on the 5 or 6 year blue belt. It took me 2.5 years to get my blue. It'll probably take me another 5 to get my purple. I also had a stroke a number of years ago, so I find that my processing ability of how to, when I did MMA, I'd be able to set out a set of actions about 3 moves ahead. I knew fighters that would set you up 4 or 5 moves ahead, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm lucky if I can do 2. Like, I'm more reacting as opposed to setting you up to put you in something. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm also 51. I'm not as fast. I'm not as fast. I'm not as nimble or agile. But
I was going to throw this curveball.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan again. And throw it to diet. What does he eat meat-wise? What he hunted. Right? There's nothing in that.
nothing in it. And that's why the government doesn't want you out there hunting.
And I bet you Joe's setting you up 6 moves ahead. And he's
Oh, yeah.
58 now?
Yeah.
Is he 58 already?
He's up there.
He's up there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and look at his buddy, Cameron Hayes. He's a big bow hunter. Check him out. That guy's
yeah.
fuck, that guy's a machine.
Yeah.
And he runs like marathons every day. Or 2 marathons. He gets up in the morning, runs a marathon. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's sick.
I'll go for that walk.
But it just goes to show you, like he's one of those super athletes, but it just goes to show you that mindset, right, and how it affects you. And I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that have that mindset.
Right.
Like, I don't have a lot of friends, or I've lost a lot of friends that are happy wallowing in their complacency and want nothing better than for those around them to also wallow in complacency.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So instead, surround yourself with people that are going to not necessarily motivate you, but encourage you to do better, to go that extra mile. Like, when I'm not injured, I like to go for a ruck march at least twice a week. I come out here, I play airsoft. Yeah, it's nice to shoot guys, but I do it to test my gear. Like, how does my loadout work? Can I, and when I go to the range, right? How does this rifle, how does a bullpup work with my current range?
Right.
Oh shit, I'd have to move these pouches around, right?
Right.
And so, you need to surround yourself with those people that have that same mindset of encouraging you to be better, and to praise you for your accomplishments. I think probably all of us never grew up with parents fucking cheering you on or pushing you forward,
Right.
or giving you praise, right? I learned that from an early age. Look, I was always athletic. I was in the runners club. I did swim competitions. I was my district champion for fucking 100-meter dash for like 4 years in a row. Parents never came.
I wasn't allowed that opportunity because I had to work for my parents.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And so, I think we're not only our own best cheerleaders, but I think it's incumbent upon us to be cheerleaders for others as well.
Yeah, for others and for each other. Yeah.
It does nothing for me, but I know it will benefit everybody else, right? I see so many guys here, you know, putting down people or laughing at them or this or that. I make it a point. I don't do it fucking for my own benefit, but I'll just go up and say, hey, you know what? You're really good on there, man. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I like when you do that. And they go from walking this, you can see it in the way they carry themselves, too. Oh, chins up.
No.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, no problem. Hey, here's a bag of BBs.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, you know, when you're shooting 2 5s, yeah, try these up, the 3 2s. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That little bit of guidance and a little bit of positive motivation will go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big takeaway from that. And I think that, for anyone that's listening, that's a fantastic takeaway and everything. Everyone that's on the show, usually when we wrap up, we give them a little gift. So I got to do a couple of things here. One is the lanyard, BCMF, where we started. You were a guest instructor in one of our courses, of course.
That's right.
In one of the chip. And also Grunts Perspective was the other thing.
Thank you, sir. That's awesome.
This is something that David's put together. The Latin, terrible with Latin, unless it's our own mottos. But it's a challenge coin. It's a reminder of remember to live, and your time will come. So this is something that we want to give it to you. Thank you, buddy.
So much. That means a lot.
Yeah. So
I don't have my old man glasses on, but I'll read that.
When you put the spectacles on, you can read it. All right. So this has been episode 2, Spiritual Warrior. How to find that drive. How to personify the 8 traits of a warrior. How you can bring it into your life and be others. And I guess the strong takeaway is be that example for others. Be that light and that beacon in a society that is so dark and crippling right now.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you, ChiChi.
Keep driving forward.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. So this has been Grunts Perspective, episode 2, Warrior Spirit. Thanks for watching.